Let us continue with our analysis of Thomas Gray's Elegy written in a country churchyard. Let us begin with stanza 8. The poet says, "Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur hear with a disdainful smile the short and simple annals of the poor." Notice that two words, ambition and grandeur, begin with a capital letter, and the poet is personifying both ambition and grandeur. Ambitious stand for men, for ambitious men, men who aspire for power and fame. Mock, laugh at their useful toil. Their stands for the peasants, the farmers. Useful toil, their labor, the work that they do in the fields. Their homely joys, the simple pleasures of the poor. The poet is continuously contrasting the lives of the simple village folk and the farmers to the luxurious life of the rich and the powerful. Destiny obscure. Destiny obscure. Destiny stands for fate. Obscure, hidden. So it is the humble lot. The ordinary people die unknown, unseen. Grandeur, again personified, and stands for great and high-born people. Nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile with an expression of contempt. The short and simple annals of the poor. Short is again brief, simple, eventful, ordinary, annals, life, history. So what is the poet saying here? The poet says that men who aspire for power and fame, the ambitious men, should not despise, should not hate, should not look down at the humble manual labor of these poor peasants. Why? Because their work, their toil, their labor is so useful to mankind, as it supplies them with the bread on which they live. He further says, nor should they scorn the simple and innocent pleasures enjoyed by these poor people in the midst of their families, and nor their low lot of living and dying unknown to fame. That is, leading such simple, ordinary, uneventful lives. He further says that the great or the high-born, the rich and the powerful people should not listen to the history of these simple people, these ordinary people, these farmers or ploughmen. They should not listen to the history of their lives with feelings of contempt, merely because their life has been so ordinary, so uneventful, so bare. Okay, let us move to the next stanza. The writer says, "The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, and all that beauty, all that wealth ever gave, awaits alike the inevitable hour. The paths of glory lead but to the grave." The boast of heraldry, the pride and pretension of noble descent. In ancient times, the nobility used to show their descent by emblazoning their heraldic devices on their coat of arms and shields. Members of noble families are very proud of their coat of arms, especially when this is very old. The pomp of power, the magnificence that attends a man in power or authority, and all that beauty, all means every advantage that beauty, all that wealth ever gave. Ever? The word ever here suggests that beauty and wealth sometimes confer exceptional advantages. And these exceptional advantages are enjoyed by a few. Awaits alike the inevitable hour. The inevitable hour is death, which, which must come one day to everyone. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. The paths of glory, the plural paths suggests that there are many ways of gaining honor and distinction and achieving distinguished careers. But they all lead to the grave, that is, they all end in death alone. The poet says in these lines that death puts an end to the pride of noble descent, the splendor and magnificence that attends powerful men, the importance, influence, and every other advantage afforded by beauty and richness in the case of any individual at any time. All kinds of glorious careers end in death alone. The simple meaning, in other words, is that man must die someday, however noble his descent may be, however splendidly he may live, however influential he may be, and however glorious his career may have been. In the next stanza, he says, "Nor you, ye proud, impute to these the fault, if memory over their tomb no trophies weighs, where through the long-drawn aisle and fretted vault the pealing anthem swells the note of praise." Yon, it is an address to those whom the poet cautioned in the 8th stanza. Ye proud, you great people of the earth, impute to these the fault, blame these poor peasants. In fact, what the poet is saying, they are not to be blamed if they could not distinguish themselves in the world so as to deserve grand monuments inside the church raised by their friends and relatives. If memory over their tomb no trophies, then memory is personified. Look at the word, it begins with a capital letter. Memory stands for their admirers. Trophies, the monuments raised over the graves of distinguished persons to commemorate their great deeds. Raise, erect, aisle, the side or wing of a church, fretted, ornamented, vault is the roof of the church. Long drawn aisle and fretted vault. This seems to suggest the Gothic style of architecture. Pealing anthem, sacred hymn loudly sung, swells, gives fullness to the note of praise, songs sung in praise of God. The poet in these lines continues to address the great people of the earth and requests them not to blame the peasants if their relations and friends have not erected monuments in their honor in the choir of the church, because it is no fault of theirs that they did not distinguish themselves in life so as to deserve such monuments. The last two lines of this stanza are very poetic, where through the long drawn aisle and fretted wall, the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. And they're very much similar to Tennyson's lines in Memoriam, where the writer says, "Where the kneeling hamlet drains the chalice of the grapes of God." In the next stanza, the poet says, "Can storied urn or animated bust back to its mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust of flattery, soothe the dull, cold ear of death?" Storied urn, a monument telling the story of the departed. An urn is a vessel for holding the ashes of the dead after cremation, and a representation of an urn is sometimes placed on tombstones. The use of urn is common in India. It was also in use in Greece and Rome. Animated bust. Animated bust, lifelike statue. Its mansion. Mansion is the dwelling place of the body. Call the fleeting breath. Call, connect it with back. Call back, meaning restore. Fleeting means short-lived. Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust? Honor's voice? Speeches in the honor of the dead. Provoke the silent dust. Provoke again means it's very similar to call in the earlier line. Provoke, call to life. The silent dust, the dead lying in the graves. Flattery, words of flattery. Soothe, please, the dull, cold ear of death. The dull, cold ear of death, the ears of the dead men. So the poet says, it is good that the village peasants have no monuments raised over their graves, for neither monuments with biographical inscriptions engraved thereon, nor lifelike statues can bring the dead back to life. No laudatory speeches in their honor, no glowing tributes to their memory can recall the dead to life, nor can words of flattery please them as they please the living. So we see that in these lines, the poet talks about the fact that these poor villages did the humble work of cultivation, and he requests the big and the powerful and the rich not to despise these poor peasants for their humble but useful work, useful because it is beneficial to all mankind. They provide food to all mankind. And he also requests them not to blame the poor peasants for their having no monuments erected over their graves inside the church, because according to Gray, monuments of all kinds, tombstones with inscriptions, statues, honors, tributes, are helpless to recall the dead back to life.